Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Holistic-Yogi podcast. I am your host, Kamala Ingrid, and today's episode is all about plant medicine. Again, we're working with the Iboga, and today I have a wonderful guest from Costa Rica. His name is Levi. And thank you for joining us today. And I would like to hear more about you're an Iboga, you're a provider that you also are in Costa Rica, correct?
I am. Yes, I
And
am.
it's a wellness center called Iboga Wellness Center where you provide all this for others that come in and go through PTSD, substance addictions, non-substance as well, depression, anxiety, and so on and so forth, right? Can you inform us on how and what got you into this path and how you got here before we move on into the plant more?
Yes, so I, came to Iboga from my own need. I was one of the first generation of kind of the pharmaceutical opiate addicts. You know, once doctors started handing those out for
Wow.
a lot of different problems, and yeah, I had a snowboarding accident and ended up getting prescribed Percocet, and yeah, getting pulled in pretty quickly. And you know, at the
Yeah,
time, you think it solves a lot of life's problems, but that's pretty short-lived.
right.
And yeah, found myself in just a really difficult place to get out of over about a 10-year span.
Wow.
And
So you kept falling and relapsing all the time.
yeah, or just maybe some clean time, but yeah, it was never too much. So it was
Right.
kind of like, maybe I could stop doing some opiates that weren't as strong for a bit, and kind of just, yeah, I had businesses and stuff, but other times, broke again, looking, how I'm going to get my own next fix.
Right.
And so, yeah, no, definitely went through, yeah, a lot of deep stuff, and you just kind of get stunted in your own growth going through a process like that.
Yeah,
And
I've heard about it. I mean, when I first got into the ayahuasca, the shaman that was basically in creating the circle, the sacred circle for us, told us something very similar, same thing, and he was in that same wow, you know, up and downs through an addiction that he couldn't seem to break, no matter how much they put him in a rehabilitated center, he'd find himself right back out in the streets searching for his next high. So he ended up in Brazil, where you ended up. Where did you go from here? How did you find that?
yeah, so I had a good friend of mine recommended Iboga. And yeah, like a lot of people, when they get called to this medicine, they hear the word Iboga. It's a pretty powerful sounding word in its own. So I looked into it and ended up getting some. And at that time, I was kind of transitioning between living in San Diego and
Yeah.
Nicaragua. And so I ended up, it's not recommended for anybody listening, but I ended up doing my own just kind of home detox.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, in short, it gets rid of 90-95% of all the physical symptoms of opiate withdrawal. You still don't sleep for quite a while, so I was up for 3 nights, and finally on the fourth night was able to get a bit of sleep. And but whenever I did get that sleep, I woke up the next day not being physically dependent on opiates anymore.
Oh, very good.
And yeah, so that in its own is pretty amazing. There's nothing else that does that. There's some things, if you were going through, traditional rehab, they might give you some benzodiazepines or something like that, or put you even on a worse opiate like Suboxone or methadone. So yeah, Iboga is the only one that can really get rid of a large percentage of the withdrawal symptoms. So there's that aspect, but then there's also things that happen in your mind. A lot of processing that happens that makes you realize why you're hurting yourself or what you're running from.
I
And
see.
so yeah, so there's it really really goes to work on the actual
Your
problem.
shadow. Yeah, it makes you basically confront your shadows or your demons,
Yeah,
as some others would say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, I started working, that was my first experience with the medicine. And then a year and a half later, there was a Bwiti shaman. So there's this traditional path we follow in the Bwiti. And this guy was from Gabon, and
Mm-hmm.
he had opened a Iboga retreat center in Costa Rica. And we became friends and led to some ceremonies. And then eventually I started training with him to be known to be an Iboga provider,
Yes.
um, and eventually got his blessing to serve the medicine. So, my first experience was about 12, 13 years ago. And the last close to 7, I've been full-time, serving the medicine, facilitating the retreats. And so, here we don't do acute detox work. We find that's kind of better left to ibogaine clinics, and especially the strength of opiates now. Like, it just gets hairy with people detoxing.
Mm-hmm.
People have problems even without, just detoxing without anything involved. And so we work mostly with, just people coming in from anxiety, depression, um, depression, PTSD. We have several soldiers come through. Unfortunately, things like, sexual abuse and, like you mentioned, other non-drug addictions, whether that's overeating or, right down to maybe,
Emotional. Yeah.
needing to
Shopaholics.
control everything. Yes, shopaholic. Oh yeah, we've had that one.
Yeah.
We've had a
It doesn't
couple.
have to be naturally like drug, like alcohol and stuff like that,
Yeah,
drugs. It's
yeah,
always, it can be some other kind of addictions. Nowadays we got the social media platforms. Go figure. Add on to it.
exactly, exactly.
So
No, we get a lot of that actually.
yeah.
People not being able to get away from the internet.
Hmm.
And cranky, and they don't know what to do with themselves when they're not on the internet. So absolutely, like, yeah, there's a lot of brain
Addictions
chemistry.
of all kinds. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And tell us a little more about the the African tribe and their culture and how they use it in their lifestyle, and because it comes from many centuries,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a beautiful tradition that comes from Iboga itself. So, for some of your listeners that may be hearing the word Iboga for the first time, it's a small shrub that grows in West Central Africa. And so there's been this tradition for who knows how many thousands of years with this plant, Iboga,
Mhm.
uh, has wisdom in it. And really what's happening is it's clearing out all the filters in oneself to really connect with the truth inside, whether you look at that as your higher self or your soul. Um, Iboga is a tool to just understand yourself better and also how to operate in the world. So they've taken this, through taking Iboga through who knows how many thousands of years, what they found and what I found from working with it is Iboga has very consistent messages that it gives everybody. It may have its own way of explaining it or a person receiving the message, but
Mhm.
there's some real, just strong pillars about life itself. And so it's, when somebody has Iboga, they're able to go in and confirm a lot of these, kind of universal truths or, life tools during an Iboga experience. And so, yeah, that it's an oral tradition. And so it's always shared orally back from the beginning. And, if you think about if you've ever sent an email or a text message and the message gets all mangled in the middle and somebody takes the interpretation the wrong way, in the Bwiti we share it orally. That way it's clear, and we look at in the Bwiti as our ears giving us our understanding of things, whereas our eyes give us our perception of things. And
Mm.
so reading something is very, very different. And at least in our Bwiti, there's kind of different branches and sects, but our Bwiti is using Iboga to study ourselves and study life at its core. Like
Beautiful.
that's what it's for.
And to be part of, one thing I read it also in the shamanism tools, with that culture, it takes what, 12 years or something like that to
Yeah,
master. Is that what I read is like it take 12 years to master?
yeah, or even longer. It really depends. It depends on the person. at least within our tradition, I don't call myself a shaman. Maybe some
Because
people. You know, in our Bwiti anyways, we look at that as something that somebody is kind of more born into in Gabon, in
oh,
West Central Africa, and so it's been passed down through their lineage. Even say, you know, to really get the deep wisdom, like our teacher studied under his grandfather from the time he was 8 until he was 24 and graduated. And to really go deep, like to be a Bwiti shaman, I mean, it's like all, you know, you're not going to get that wisdom unless it's already in your family or somebody is like, you know,
passed it down. Oh, wow.
yeah, passing it down. But with that said, we definitely do shamanic things, but not like a shaman like our teacher. He's on another level. But you know, outside of that, the medicine is the real key in all of this. It's the tool. It's
Yeah.
even the tool, you know, he goes to. It's the tool I go to. And the beautiful thing about Iboga is it really teaches one how to fish. You know, eventually you learn so much from the medicine about yourself and how to operate in the world that yeah, you don't necessarily have to go to it for answers anymore. So that's a really powerful part of it all.
And I only experienced the ayahuasca, so I can only speak with that experience. How is it very similar, and what are the differences between the two experiences if you were?
Yeah, and they're both beautiful, just powerful, you know, life-changing plants, but they do have different properties and different personalities. You know, the plants itself, you know, say the boga, or I'm sorry, the ayahuasca vine, at least the vine component of itself, you know, that vine is coming up from the ground, going up a tree, reaching up to the sky, and it's going to look to go as high as possible as it can. Whereas the boga is, you know, it's a small shrub, maybe, you know, meter and a half, 2 meters, and its properties are it just has really strong roots going into the earth. So, you know, in one respect, and there's overlap in between all of this, but in one respect, Iboga is very much earth-based medicine
Mm-hmm.
being here, and ayahuasca is definitely has properties of connecting you more with things, you know, in the universe.
Transcend to,
Yep.
yeah, because I did experience that in a lot of ancestral connections too during the times I journeyed into it. Versus, you know, where it's different with the psilocybin. You know, the journey
Yeah.
there is more of a connection of compassion within self, and where the ayahuasca was more mental, and anything that I guess I had closed myself off to and thought I can put it away like a Pandora box, surfaced up for me to deal with. And it was a hard, I would say, more of a teacher plan, because it shook me to face the scenarios and that I dealt with. And once I did, I realized it wasn't so, nothing was as bad as I thought of it in my mind or what I created at the time. So it ended up becoming rewarding every time I went back and sat down and I journeyed again, and I would always get something new coming out of it. And I found myself healing a lot of those wounds that I had at one point pushed away for so many years as a child, you know, to the point that now, as a yoga teacher and influencer with a lot of people in my community, it's easy for me to speak to them from those experiences. And even if they don't do that type of work or journey, I can guide them through the light that I saw during the experience when I was in that time, you know, journey. So, and where psilocybin, I find it more through the meditations I do, it's a connection, more of a compassionate connection. So that's why I was curious when I saw this. I was like, how is that different? And then I heard about there are other ones out there, so many different kinds. So how do you justify who goes to what plant, what works best for them? Like who would be more appropriate for this one?
Yeah. Yeah, first I want to say, yeah, what a blessing that you've gotten from ayahuasca and the medicine. So
Oh,
I'm really
beautiful.
glad to hear that. Yeah, yeah, that's what it's all about. You know, we have to get something out of these experiences because they're typically not fun. So that's, yeah, I agree. If you know, everybody goes through their own thing, but yeah, to be able to work through that pain and come out the other side, like, yeah, it just gives somebody so much strength, like yourself, like you said, being able to now share with your community and your students and
I
guide
mean,
them.
it gets to a point where, there's so much as a person and going through life, and I find that when I got the chance to dive into this experience the first time, I found that later, as time went by, as a teacher already, as a yoga teacher for very early on in my life, as a student, all the things I learned in yoga very much correspond to what you do with the plant.
Mm-hmm.
For example, meditation, I can definitely go into a deep meditation. I can also go into what they call the breathing techniques and um, find myself in that place as well, whereas a plant facilitates it in a different way, so giving you that same outcome. But I didn't realize that till I went through the experience. So now I don't, for those that are listening, it's like you don't necessarily have to go this route. You can do it in a more, but it has a very similar outcome, very transcendent if you can. But I know there's a lot of people out there that have difficulty with the meditation or getting in there because there's so much in their head. And that's when I think I say from my experience, this definitely helps you get out of there because it teaches you to snap out and deal with the issue that comes up in the moment for you that's experiencing it, and confront it at the same time, but you confront it in a more loving way because it opens up the heart, so especially for me at one point in my life, I remember just shutting down and going through this experience. It opened me up so much to a point where it made me realize what I had done to myself along that journey. So that was the beauty of that.
Wow.
Again, for what I was at, when I asked you who would be appropriate for the Iboga and what would make this one, since you said the plant is much stronger, what are some of the experience some of your clients have experienced, and you could share with us a little bit of.
Yeah, we the whole key to getting anything done with any medicine is definitely having the will inside to want to bring some change in your life and better yourself. So, we kind of try and make sure that people are really coming for themselves and not, we've had some kind of psychonauts that have had, every plant medicine you can imagine, and Iboga is the last one on the list. And so, yeah, really coming for yourself, like that's the key in any of these plants. But it works so well for so many different things. I mean, it really is a very deep physical cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good for a lot of people with like ligament and joint problems and arthritis and different pains. It heightens all of your senses, like seems to take your senses and just recharge them, and you come out of it more vibrant, where things are just a little sharper all around, your taste, your hearing, the sounds. But yeah, a big part of our clientele, there's a percentage that come through that are going through some sort of depression. Maybe 20%, maybe not that high, maybe 15% of people that come through are to have this experience similar with ayahuasca. They have to stop any sort of SSRI medication. So we have people that are coming in, 10 days, 2 weeks out from stopping SSRI medications. And, of course, if they're taking those, they're dealing with some sort of trauma, anxiety, depression, or they've gotten caught up in a way of thinking, like they haven't really learned how to think properly and got caught in their mind and, created the loop and aren't able to break it. Then you have people come that, maybe their life's not, bad, but they still kind of feel stuck. They know there's something more out there for them. They're looking for a reset and kind of a new direction in life. And Iboga definitely provides that. Like, yeah, it's a very once somebody has Iboga, which is kind of one difference with Iboga and ayahuasca, is the medicine stays in your body for longer. So it's not
Oh,
necessarily strong, for days or a week or 2 weeks after, but it's in there and it's slowly dripping out, and that little bit of medicine in there gives you some really solid guidance time after the experience. And it really protects you from yourself, makes you very aware of how you're thinking, what decisions you're making, what am I doing with my emotions. So it makes you hyper aware of that, and somehow just gives you a little push inside to make sure you do the right things for yourself. So, that month to 3 months after Iboga is super important, when you can really then choose to fill your life back up with good things, because a lot gets shed. And it's a very, it's not a fun experience, I'll say that,
no.
especially for somebody with the first, their first or second time. Like, it's just such a deep cleanse, mind, body, and soul, and it moves so much out so quickly that when we have, these things that we don't need anymore and they're getting cleared out, um, it's just not going to feel good,
Yeah.
but the gains that you can gain in such a short amount of time, besides plant medicines, there's probably, they're at least one of the fastest routes there if we have something that, we're struggling with and can't seem to move past. And so, yeah, it's a long experience. Typically people can expect to be somewhere in the medicine between 18 and 30 hours or so.
Wow.
Doesn't mean it's really intense or strong that whole time, but it does have properties of kind of keeping you awake for a while.
Right.
They use it, in Gabon, taking small amounts to go on hunts and go, hiking through the forest for 2 nights, and it gives you stamina like that.
Wow.
And yeah, we kind of guide people that until you've slept after this experience, it's not the time to look back and see what you've got. So we consider the medicine as still working on somebody until they sleep. When they sleep, they wake up, they definitely feel, the stillness in their mind, memories that used to affect them, make them feel a certain way, don't do that anymore. They can look at them, but it just doesn't give them the same sensation or vibration in their body. And yeah, people are just really cleared out, process a lot. And then, like I was saying on the other end, then post, ceremony, the integration process, like there's definitely protection there from the medicine of, really making sure you now, what are you going to put inside now that you've made some space in there. And
Interesting.
so yeah, it depends, people, we get a big percentage of people that come through have had ayahuasca. um, there's like I mentioned, we get a lot of people with depression coming through, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's for anybody really that's called. And somebody, a lot of people that come here, they've been looking at Iboga, and it's kind of been at them for 2 years, 3 years, and they finally make the leap. So yeah, once people, in the Bwiti, we look at our curiosity as being a really powerful thing. So when we're curious about something, we really want to make sure and pay attention to that and see where that leads.
Okay.
And
And the experience of I know through the ayahuasca there's purging is the same thing, because I know the 5-MeO DMT doesn't have that. It gives you the feeling of wanting to purge, but you don't purge. Is there purging in this as well?
there's definitely purging, not as much oral purging as ayahuasca. So
Okay.
through the Iboga experience, maybe 60% of people may purge orally, but they do purge a lot of different ways. It's quite
Right.
common to
Right.
pee a lot. Sweating can certainly happen. People can get trembly, a little shaky, not where they're,
Right.
shaking
Right.
out of control, but they can feel the medicine is very strong neurologically, and you can feel it going through, nerves in your body, and just
It's
like,
probably trap emotional stuff that they've had held back at some point.
oh
Because
yeah,
sometimes we would do that through even yoga. Will have you sometimes, depending on the breathing exercises I've done in the past in a workshop, people have had tremors or they cry, or they release, and it's an emotional release that from something, some traumatic experience, emotional experience that they had at one point. So I'm sure that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something I could see the plant shaking out of the system.
Yeah, no, we're good at holding on to stuff if we want to. That's for
Oh,
sure. Keep packing it in there, and yeah, it just needs the, the proper setting and give it the proper setting and the proper tools. It can then come out, and be
yeah.
released.
And now I guess we've come a long way where now they're taking, this used to be taboo back in the days. Now we're looking at it moving forward, especially when you got in, probably was very much a taboo back then, right? It was more,
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't commonplace,
yeah. I know that
Um,
there's a lot of people now creating, there's a lot of scientists out there doing now more experiments, learning about this, for people with PTSD and people with anxiety or depression, and kind of slowly testing this method. Do you see itself someday coming to light where we would use it instead of these the formula people are using today for rehabilitation centers that to me clearly don't work?
oh yeah, yeah. No, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of tools that come through science, and like you said, there's very aggressive, research happening in the psychedelic medicine field.
Mhm.
And the one thing I think about that, if it can help people, that's wonderful. I'm all for that. Um, but you're gonna have a tough time improving something that already has it all there. Whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin, iboga, it already works. But of course, Western culture, we want to, patent things and, create
Control everything.
systems and yeah, corporate culture for, plant medicine or these psychedelic medicine settings, which is good. Some of them are going to do okay with that, and they will get some people that aren't going to come here, or they're not going to go somewhere and have ayahuasca and they want to do it, with a therapist. And that's great. But yeah, it's just I just don't see it being able to improve upon nature.
Yeah.
Nature gives us everything we need. Every medicine, everything that we have comes from nature, and so yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah, and then like I said, this is all these type of all these plant medicines have been basically already been and still are with a lot of our ancient tribes. This is where we are learning from them. This is something they've passed down from generation to generation, and now we've become more aware of it, of healing through the medicine of plants. My question to you is like for someone I'm aware, but say I came to you for the first time and I'm going through some anxiety, what would be my experience at the center you have right now? Like what would be some of the, take me through the process that you guys do?
yeah. So if somebody decides to come here, um, I essentially think of myself as an assistant or an aide to Iboga. And so the way we do the ceremonies and the structure here is very straightforward. Like I said, we follow a protocol our teacher taught us, which is, integrating Bwiti with a setting that is, known to Westerners where they feel comfortable. So it's kind of a melding of
Mhm.
those two things. And so the first thing, of course, is getting to know somebody. I had to deal with my own anxiety and depression and my own traumas, and yeah, getting to know somebody and where they're coming from, um, and then being able to guide them throughout the week with the wisdom of the medicine. Like everything, any guidance that I would give is something that already comes from the medicine,
Correct.
or the Bwiti. And
And how
so
long is the process? How long would someone be there for?
a week,
A
they
week.
come for 7 nights, yeah, 8 days.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
during that time, we do two experiences with the medicine. And
Hmm.
so that's pretty helpful. And that's about as much as you can do in a week's time. Two experiences, like the integration time is longer with Iboga, So,
Okay.
it kind of, it's strong, and then it just slowly trails off, and then things start making sense. They get released. And so, that's a longer period. But yeah, getting to know somebody. And so we do a thing here, when were in the ceremony with Iboga. We do something called a guided journey. And this is a Bwiti technique to take somebody inside themselves and meet
Mhm.
their own soul or their own higher self. And so during this process, they can ask any questions they want about their life, um, and they'll get direct, answers back that they can then take with them and use, and you know, get all the information they need to then really see that truth for themselves and what's going on. Where is my depression coming from?
Right.
Why am I not loving myself? So questions like that, and they can get yeah. We call Iboga the greatest hunter for the truth.
That's
And
nice.
during this process, they're able to just get to the truth of things and not have to be confused about them anymore.
Right.
Because we create, we get emotionally involved in things that have happened to us, and that, that skews the way we look at it. And so, yeah, just really seeing things for what they are. And in the end, being able to make the decision, really dig down deep, that you're just not going to carry it around anymore, and you're not going to hurt yourself, with these things that have happened or whatever's gone on,
Right.
accepting the past, fully understanding it, but loving yourself and taking that step enough to, okay, I understand this. I have all the information I need, but I'm not going to hurt myself with it anymore. And I'm
Right.
going to move forward with it. And yeah, so it's, there's one thing that can happen quite common with people that come here, and we call it a mind detox.
Hmm.
And people take the medicine, it starts kicking in, and the mind kind of goes into overdrive, where it's just going so fast that, every 300 milliseconds or so, you're having a thought, and there's really no conclusion, and it goes to the next one, and it goes to the next one. And it can do that for hours. And, so that's a pretty common thing. But when people are going through that, we remind them they don't have to follow it or make sense of it at this time. But then once they get through the process, that's where the stillness of the mind comes in. Like, it's created all this space in the mind. And now, like you said, you're able to kind of come
Yeah.
into this and be there and be present, where, the mind wants to take control. And we identify with the mind so much in the West and think we
Yeah.
are a mind. And so, yeah, it really gives you some separation from that. So that's a
Yeah.
really big benefit.
Yeah. I sort of understand that, because I think with my journey, I remember when the first time I went in, when my mind went into that ramble, it's like ADD. I remember going in, every time I opened my eyes, I ended up finding myself going through an experience I didn't want to, and then I closed my eyes again, and then I found myself in another experience. And so every time, I think it was when I open and close, I kept jumping to one picture to another, to another, to another. Whereas if I stayed, what I learned over this second course was that when I stayed in that one picture, just accepting what was coming forward, it allowed me to just get over it quick. And I think we do this when I look back now, and I think this is what we do to ourselves. We're like a remote control, constantly changing the channel and not wanting to confront situations and things like that. So now, ever since I've had that experience, I'm able to just shut, close that, come forward, move forward, take notes if I have to research on something. And that's with everything, work, personal, as a mother, whatever it is. If I don't have the answers, I'll figure it out. But I come to it. I'll make sure I don't, let it go. So I'll make a mental picture to come back to that process, to process whatever it is that I have to process. Unless I'm in, overwhelmed or caught with too much things and too many projects all at once, then that I can go into that mindset, and then I'll always have some friend of mine or someone pop up. Slow down. Take it easy. So, it's just like, okay, I gotta go back. I've gotta come back. I gotta ground. I gotta center. But this was to me a very an eye-opening experience, and I've always wanted to do it. Way back when I told you everything was taboo, and it somehow presented itself in 2015, which I experienced it, and it was scary, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything about it, and I jumped into it with all the faith I had in my heart, and came out of it feeling like that sense of wow, that energy is a reboot, it's a restart. You look at things clear. It's like everything that was fog in your head just disappears, and it couldn't have come in a better time in my life. So I remember doing two within that year, which helped me, reset myself back forward. So I can definitely recommend this thing. But what's one of the things you would actually recommend our listeners to look forward to find the right? Because there is so much out there now that you have to be careful. Everybody, like you said, will call themselves shamans. Everybody will, and as you said, it's important to know that they come from, it's a lineage. It's something that comes from, they're born into it, which makes it more authentic. Um, how and what can you recommend our listeners when they're searching, if this is something they want to do? What are some points and tips you can recommend them?
Yeah, definitely with Iboga, you need to make sure you're really confident where you're going. I mean, it's very serious work, and it's very, very deep. So yeah, you want to make sure you go somewhere where you feel good about, you feel like the people that are bringing you in care about you and actually want the best for you would be a big one. Definitely check reviews out online, and look at somebody's experience. I know for myself, I was involved with Iboga, trained with our teacher, and it was 6 years before I ever served anybody any medicine.
Okay.
So, it's not something, I may have thought I was ready before, but as I got in further, I wasn't. Like, hey, you really, with this medicine, need somebody that's been around it for years and have seen a lot of situations. Things can come up. One common thing is people can think they're making themselves worse in the middle of it, and like, oh, I messed up, and now my depression. Typically what happens with Iboga is it amplifies the things that we're dealing with.
Okay.
So if we're depressed, we're gonna feel after, as it's processing and coming up and out, like you may feel 3 times as depressed as before and be like, oh, I really messed up, and now I'm worse. But actually what's happening is the medicine is spent its time scrubbing and bringing things to the surface, and now it's time for them to be released. And when things are released, kind of like what you're mentioning, they come into our consciousness in some form. We're going to experience them, whether we see something, hear it, it's a feeling. Stuff is going to be felt if it's going to be released.
Right.
And so yeah, you need to know how to deal with those situations, how to keep everything safe physically and spiritually,
Right.
and healthy emotionally from people. And so just do good research, I would say. And there is good providers other than myself out there.
Right.
But yeah, look for experience.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, dear friend of mine. She went to Peru, but her experience was not that great, and I was shocked, because she's definitely, has the one to do research, and I was shocked, and I don't know um, and why it went south for her, because it's, I guess it was, I don't know where she ended up in, like I said, there's so many out there that you have to be careful that they're not just taking the money, whatever. But yeah, her experience wasn't that great, and when we talk about it, she's like, it's not open to it. And I think her traumas were very traumatic as a child, so I know that it would have been, maybe they surfaced and she didn't want to confront him. I don't know. I was not there, nor does she like to talk about it. So it's like, but that's about the only person. Everybody else that I've confronted have had a decent experience, especially if they've been in the circle I've been, just because I know that the circle I stayed with, they were there attentive at all means when people were going through their moments. They were there, making sure everything was okay, guiding you. So I think that's very important to, you feel safe, even though you don't really know half the people that are there. You just still feel safe. And once the journey is over, everybody comes together as almost like a family. There's that sense of peace, and we move on, but it's a sense of like calmness that is felt in the room, that is very unique and different, because you don't see that when you go out in a public setting. Everybody's tense, everybody's stressed, or you can feel everybody's energy. So off here, everybody's in that same beautiful spirit place, even though they might be by themselves or whatever. It was in that center of serenity, I would say, bliss, just processing, and or in a sense of relaxation that I like. But that's why I think it's important for people to do their research and dive deep. But I wanted to tell us a little bit more about your place, your location.
So we're in the South Pacific of Costa Rica, in the mountains outside of kind of, I guess, one of the more well-known spots is Dominical, Costa Rica. So we're about at a 2,500-foot elevation on top of a mountain. It's really beautiful area. It's 70 to 85 degrees year-round, which is really nice. And yeah, we're on the retreat house is a 9-bedroom house, and so we keep our retreats pretty small. Even though it's 9-bedroom, there's 2 staff that stay in there, and so typically we keep it at 5 or 6 people during retreats. So it's pretty intimate, and yeah, it's important. I don't know if you notice with ayahuasca, but in the room, the energy can really move around. Like
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'm an empath, and I'm a healer as well. So I would pick up everyone's energy. I had to learn really to shut and close and dome myself in, so I wouldn't pick up, because I could feel when they were going through something. I knew it wasn't mine. I was just like, oh, that was on my first experience, and I was like, wow, this is powerful. I would feel everything they were going through and where they were stuck at, and I was like, oh my God, that was intense. So yes, I understand small groups are important, because
Yeah. Fortunately with Iboga, it kind of doesn't move around as much, but it's still such a long process. Like, once we have the medicine, we need to be there, for people at least for 24 hours. So there will be trips where we'll sleep, after ceremony, I'll go home and sleep for a bit and then come back over. But yeah, so yeah, you really need to be there for people. And so yeah, there's a 9-bedroom house. Yeah, we have a really good gourmet chef that came from a couple of the bigger resorts up in northern Costa Rica that's super sweet and cooks all of our food.
Plant-based, vegan, right? Vegan?
No, we
Oh,
have,
you have.
something for everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
With Iboga, there's not as much of a strictness on the diet. It's kind of more eat healthy, and don't eat junk food, and but we do have some lunch on the day of ceremony, and then everybody does fast for the rest of the day. And,
nice.
Unless it's water or coconut water from there.
Right. Some form of electrolytes. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's important. That's important. Yeah, and so while people are here, we go to the beach a couple times. A lot of it is integration time. That's just what's needed through this process. We go to a local river. We do a Bwiti ritual called the spiritual shower, which is a cleansing people, and it has, there's different aspects to it, but we'll say it works as a really beautiful, just pure ceremony that we do for people. And several kind of integration circles, and just getting with people during the time, and like seeing where they're at in the process, because there's definitely different, just like ayahuasca, different steps, and what people are going through and where they're at in that. And yeah, just supporting people. The medicine is going to do its work. That's why it's all about just creating the right environment, and coaching people properly on what they can expect, what to do with it when it comes, and so really just trust in the medicine. Like, it's so very consistent in like how good it is. I mean, it's just amazing. Every retreat we do, like, everybody leaves in a better spot.
That's
Does
awesome.
life still happen? Things are still going to come up, of course, but people definitely release a ton, and some of them, change their life completely. One of the big ones, coming through, and we have to make sure everybody's stable, but we've gotten people that were really close to, ending their own life. So
Yeah.
to be able to hear about them come here and leave and just have, appreciate and value their life and turn their life around is just, yeah, it's amazing. And it's so amazing for all these different things too, all these different human problems that we have. And so, yeah, it's very special medicine. It's changed my own life, and obviously I'm an advocate for it, but it really is just a powerful tool that comes from nature for us.
Nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful to hear. Um, is there any words of wisdom that you have right now for anybody that is all those that are listening right now that you would like to provide it?
Yeah, I would say, not just with Iboga, but with plant medicine in general. Um, it really is a way to move past some places that you may be stuck in a short amount of time. And yeah, know that, I don't know where I would be without Iboga, including also ayahuasca, has been a big part of my life. And so just know there's tools out there. If you
Yeah.
really want it and change, and if it feels like a good fit for you, there is tools for you, and you can move through it. And it all starts with valuing and appreciating our life. Being thankful for the gift of life is kind of the foundation in our Bwiti. For everything builds on top of that, because if we're not, valuing and appreciating our life, then we're not going to make good decisions for ourselves. Our thoughts aren't going to be healthy for us. We may not treat our body well. So yeah, getting to that point where you really just feel blessed to be here, live in this world, and be able to go through this experience. And
Yes.
yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, oh, Liddy, thank you so much. I mean, you really informed me a lot. Is there anything that you would like to add on to this topic that we've been with Iboga, and anything else that you would like to?
Um, no, that's a pretty good overview. No, I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
having me on here and being able to share the word
Uh,
Iboga with the world, because it's not real well known. It's coming,
no,
sneaking out, but yeah, it's definitely on a mission though right now.
absolutely. I heard some of it. I was able to stumble upon a few podcasts on plant medicine, and someone had Iboga on there, and they talked about it. They also talked about ibogaine, the ibogaine plant.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
also very much stronger than the Iboga. Is that correct? Not,
No.
or I
No.
have it backwards. There
Well,
was
ibogaine comes from Iboga, so it's
iboga.
one of the
Okay,
alkaloids in the Iboga plant, and what I see, it's very useful for like an opiate addiction
that's what you
setting. It
mentioned.
kind of
Okay,
gets through people quicker than Iboga, but typically Iboga is a heavier.
so it's a much stronger. That's what. Okay, that's what I understood. It was actually
Yeah,
much stronger. Okay,
yeah. I mean, yeah, ibogaine can be very strong as well, but overall, typically Iboga is a deeper experience, and I'm pretty sure it cleanses you physically quite a bit more.
for someone that's going through something like that, that is very heavy in the opioid scenario that we're talking about, how many of those would they have to take? How many of those journeys would they have to go through to kind of see them completely get off?
Yeah,
Or does that vary?
so we used to do opiate detox work about 7 years ago, and we stopped kind of when fentanyl started coming out, and kind of would have had to turn more into kind of a medically, a medical treatment center rather than a shamanic healing center, and so we
Mm,
kind of stopped doing it at that time. So we do everybody that comes here is not going through any sort of withdrawal, but we do get people that go to an Ibogaine clinic, get themselves through the physical part of the process, and then come here. From my perspective, and there's not a lot of them doing it. I mean, if I was to, I think you need at least a couple times with the medicine. There's some, most Ibogaine clinics, you're just getting, one treatment and plus what they call maybe booster doses, smaller amounts afterwards.
Okay.
If I was to do detox, I would do it over like a 30-day time and have people have the medicine
spread it out
4 times. Yeah. But no, there's plenty of people, and there's good people doing good work out there. A lot of them, due to the nature of Ibogaine clinics, actually only get the medicine once. During their stay, and maybe one of those booster doses. But with from what I've read and from talking to some people in the industry, you can get up to 60% of the people had not gone back to opiates after 6 months.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, compared to
what we're dealing with, with what we're dealing with right now with the these facilities that really, they just go right back.
It's definitely the best tool for any opiate addicts that can't get past it. It's you gotta want it, and some people just aren't ready, or their family pushes them, or friends, or the wife, or the husband, and so. But if somebody's ready, they can certainly do it. They're going to get past the physical part of the process of a detox, and then it's up to them.
That's true. And again, it's like you said, they need to want it in order for them to see the changes. Yeah, that goes with everything you do in life too. You gotta want it.
Yeah. No, you gotta be all the way in. That's the way anything gets done. All doing it the whole way.
Yeah, that's good.
95%.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, Levi Barker, thank you so much. I wanted to for joining me on this mission and informing everybody a little bit more about a different type of plant medicine out there. And I will put all your link below for everybody to see, how to reach you.
Thank you.
And connect with you. And for those that are now joining this podcast for the first time, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends. This is, amazing knowledge out there. So I will also link his information below. Thank you so much for joining the Holistic Yogi. Until next time, namaste.
Namaste.